Thank you, Concordia. Minister, I'm not sure how familiar you are with West Cork. Very good. I'd usually be trying to sell the place to you and tell everyone how great the place is and that it has everything, but unfortunately the one thing that it lacks is an abundance of GPs, and that's why I'm raising this here today. You'll be familiar, it's a big area, it's pretty vast, and it's geographically very, very unique. Many instances in the West Cork area you will have one GP practice, maybe with a couple of practice nurses covering a vast geographical area. And this is the problem. It's putting services under pressure, and it means in many instances families, people living in the area, even visitors, are struggling to get access to GP services. And this pressure that it's putting on GPs is also putting the really important out-of-hours South Dock services at risk as well. It's become so bad that GPs are getting to the situation where they're unable to just take a week's holiday, which I think is very sad. It's not good enough for the GP. It's not good enough for the service users and the people living in that area as well. So that has to change. And unfortunately, the situation has disimproved over the last number of years. And I have to tell the story of a GP from the Beara Peninsula, the furthest west peninsula, furthest west tip of West Cork. The GP based in Castleton-Bear, which would be the town relevant to that area. This GP is unbelievable. She is so dedicated to her work, to the people of the Beara Peninsula, and to the patients that she serves. She rarely takes a lunch. She never gets home when she's supposed to get home. And she's unbelievably dedicated to what she does. She was in a position to take a week's holiday, which is obviously a really important thing for her to do with her family. But the retired GP who had offered to cover for her during this week, her medical insurance ran out just the day before she was to start providing cover for the GP in the area. And the insurance would not be renewed, which is absolutely ridiculous, which meant that this GP, who has dedicated her life to serving the people of Castleton-Bear, had to make the heartbreaking decision of closing her practice temporarily, leaving the people of this vast geographical area on the furthest southwest tip of Ireland without a GP cover. That's not good enough, but unfortunately that scenario that I've just painted to you is the reality on the ground. GPs services are under pressure, out-of-hours South Dock services are under severe pressure. Families who are moving into an area are failing to get access to a family doctor. So something needs to happen. I understand that there's 350 training places being made available in 2024. I want to know when that's happening and how soon that might be happening. There's also talk of 100 non-EU GPs being recruited to try and ease pressure. First of all, I don't think 100 is going to be anywhere near enough. So we'd love to see that number increased. And the second question then is, when can we expect to see these non-EU GPs recruited? And then there's this strategic review that we're expecting as well. We need to see that published as soon as possible so that we can move on, we can reform, and we can bolster large parts of Ireland with the GP cover that they need to be served with. So looking forward to your response. I appreciate that the Minister for Health isn't here today, but I'm sure you'll do an incredible job of representing him.
Thank you, Ken Corla. Thank you, Deputy, for raising the matter on behalf of your constituents. As in recent years, general practice has had to do more as demand for services has increased, as life expectancy has increased, as population has increased. The Government has taken a number of measures to improve recruitment and retention of GPs and to increase the number of GPs practising in the state. The 2019 GP agreement provides for an additional €211 million in expenditure for general practice and an approximate 40% increase on the funding provided prior to the agreement. The agreement has introduced a €2 million annual fund to support GPs in areas of urban deprivation. Rural practice supports have been increased by 10% under the agreement also. As was announced this week, agreement has been reached with the IMO to extend eligibility for GP visit cards to people who earn up to the median household income and to children aged 6 and 7. So approximately 500,000 additional persons are expected to become eligible for free GP care under this expansion, the largest expansion of access to GP care without charges in the history of the state. That new GP agreement includes additional capacity supports to enable the expansion and retention of staffing within general practice. It includes additional support for GP out-of-hours services and a pilot scheme to assist rural GPs to source locum cover for leave. A new form of practice grant will also be made available to GPs for additional support staff, in addition to an increase in the existing practice support subsidy. The total financial package will amount to approximately 130 million in 2024. The number of GPs, as the Deputy has asked, entered in training has more than doubled from 120 in 2009 to 258 in 2022, with 285 places available this year and 350 training places now planned for next year. The HSE is also working with the Irish College of General Practitioners on a programme, as you have said, to bring 100 non-EU GPs into the country this year. That initiative, which has already commenced with 25 posts started in January 2023, is planned to extend up to 250 GPs by the end of 2024. The initiative is targeted at rural areas, areas of urban deprivation, and those difficult to fill posts in various geographical locations across the country. The terms of reference for a strategic review of general practice has recently been published. That review will commence shortly and will be completed this year. The review will benefit with input from key stakeholders, will examine the broad range of issues affecting general practice, including GP capacity issues, and will set out the measures necessary to deliver, I hope, a more sustainable general practice.
Thank you, Minister. In conclusion, from my point of view, you mentioned there the extension of the GP visit cards being extended to over 50% of the population. About 500,000 more people now will be eligible for GP visit cards. This is fantastic. It's going to mean that those who most need GP care assistance will have access to it, and it really goes a long way to addressing what has been a huge issue within our health service for a long time, and that is the affordability issue. So this is reformative, and it has to be welcomed on all fronts. But, and there's always a but, this measure again will compound the issue that I've just outlined to you, the pressure that rural GPs in particular are on because of the difficulty that they have getting locum cover. Difficulty, I mean, it is a exercise in itself for a GP to try and get cover, whether it's through locum services or ringing around to friends or retired doctors. It is a huge effort, and it's not really fair. So absolutely, we welcome this measure in relation to the 500,000 extra people getting access to GP visit cards, but we need to put measures in place now to bolster these services. GPs in rural areas have been warning of this scenario for a long time. They've been warning many of us that this is going to happen. It's happening, they're under pressure. So my message, I guess, to you, Minister, to bring back to the Minister for Health, of course I'll be bringing it to his attention myself as well, is that measures need to be put in place straight away to ensure that the supports are there for GPs, GP practices and practice nurses as well.
Could I just say, in relation to the locum services, and the Deputy highlighted a difficulty getting insurance, if he'd like to bring that to me directly as Minister for Insurance, if there's a systemic issue, I will raise it, I will discuss it with Insurance Ireland and try to find the route for it. It does seem that the locum, the opportunity to ask people who have retired, we are living longer lives, we are working longer lives. People may wish to do locum flexible sort of working, and it should be an easy thing to be able to get insurance, or an easier thing to get insurance. And I'm very happy to pick that element up with the Department of Health and indeed with the Deputy, if you could provide me with more information. I think what's important to analyse is the rate of increase in GPs entering training contracts relative to the rate of increase of population. It's very clear that it's a very significant expansion relative to 2009. But whether it's going to keep pace and get ahead of pace with continued population growth as unexpectedly large or as ahead of profile, perhaps, as you might have expected that to be, is important to analyse. But I do think that the opportunity to bring non-EU GPs and to benefit from the influx of immigration that we have had into this state, which includes a range of both skilled and less skilled people, or professional and not professional people, but to really take advantage of the skills that they bring to Ireland and to make sure that that's well distributed around the country, that everybody benefits from that, is an important initiative, and one, I think, which warrants intense focus and scrutiny by yourself and by every other deputy in the House. The number of doctors training to work as GPs in the country has increased significantly in recent years, and I believe will continue to do so, but the question is how it's analysed versus population growth and the distribution of that. Still, more work needs to be done to improve GP services further and to cater for increased demand. The strategic review of general practice, I believe, will examine a comprehensive range of issues, including the GP capacity services in rural areas such as West Cork, and identify the changes needed for a better GP service in the future.
Thank you.